Hi everyone and welcome back to the garden. It's a really windy day here. There's been torrential rain, beautiful sun and everything between. It's been one of those days really. I did try to do another video yesterday, but unfortunately there was just that much wind and rain I couldn't get it finished. So I thought I'd try again today, and this is what we're dealing with. So you can see behind me, a lot of the leaves have started to fall now. Not because they've turned into beautiful colours like yellows and oranges, just because they've been blown straight off the trees and absolutely just battered off. So that's the kind of year it is. But on the plus side, we've had no frost yet, and although this next week's going to be a little bit colder, there's still hopefully no frost forecast, which means I can actually leave out a lot of the insetted bananas, a lot of the more tender plants for hopefully another couple of weeks, which is definitely something not to worry about. But today I want to talk about something else, not about the plants you've got that you're looking to put away or dig up for the winter, but getting new plants, because obviously at a time of year when you don't have a lot of room in your greenhouse, your polytunnel, your house even, why would you want to buy more plants? Well, if they're cheap, you definitely would. The first group of plants I've seen really cheap recently are cannas. I saw a load in B&M a few weeks ago, and cannas, they're an essential part of an exotic garden. Here I've got loads of different varieties with their giant leaves, huge flowers. They're really an exotic part of the garden. But it's not probably the time of year that I personally would buy them. And that's because anything you buy now, you're going to have to overwinter it somewhere. It's a bit late to plant them out and hope that they'll actually make it through a cold winter. And equally, you can't just leave that pot outside for the winter months. Chances are it'll just rot or just freeze through. So you need to have somewhere to keep it. So by all means, if you've got a greenhouse or polytunnel that's half full, no person who's into exotics has a greenhouse or polytunnel that's half full, but if you are that person, then now is probably a great time to stock up. But one thing I would just say is make sure the plants look healthy, because cannas at these places, in any kind of supermarket, anything like that, they're well known for being virused. So if you can see any sort of warping or marks on the leaves, then just leave that plant well alone. It's not worth saving a few quid to pick up something that will infect your other healthy cannas. But let's look at some plants that are more reliable, more bulletproof, and something you can definitely plant out at this time of year. I'm not usually a fan of buying ropey looking plants in the sale sections. Sure, with a bit of TLC, you can often bring them back to life and you get a lot of pleasure from that, you save a lot of money, but equally, there's times when it's a bit of an uphill battle and you're not guaranteed to have a really healthy plant at the end of it. However, there's some plants you can buy that don't look great right now, but will be absolutely fine. Plants like these hostas here. And this one, I bought it from Brig Garden Centre. I actually used to work there a few years ago. And this one, it's got a sticker on it, which means it's half price. So although it looks ropey now, plants like hostas, they do naturally die down at this time of year. And it's a great time to pick up plants like these that are perfect accessories for your exotic garden. So I use these to pair with my palms, the tree ferns, the bamboos. I plant them all around the borders, especially shady areas where you just want to cover that soil. Plants like hostas are absolutely perfect. And really it's a case of combining as many different colours and leaf shapes as possible. That's how you get that lush sort of jungle vibe. So this for £2, you can't go wrong really. Sure, it's going to die down, but what I'll do in the next few weeks before it completely withers away, I'll plant it out, find a nice little spot for it, and I'll just put a cane or a stick in so I know where it is, so I don't dig it up or mulch it too much. And then I'll just leave it, and next spring it'll come up bigger and better than ever. So they're perfectly hardy, and it's also a pretty good time of year to plant things like this. The soil's still warm, it'll settle in nicely and be absolutely good to go next year. But from a plant that's dying down and reduced because of that, let's look at some evergreens that are perfectly good now and will look amazing all the way through the winter months, but still at a great price. Two plants I did actually buy from B&M, not for my own garden here, but maybe for a community garden project to do next year, are these here. Hardy exotics I'm sure you'll have heard of. We've got a Cordyline, a nice purple one, and this, a beautiful Fatsia japonica. So they're very common plants, but they still have that exotic vibe. And at half price, they're £2 each. So they're not massively expensive, but if you've got a big garden, some spaces to fill, then these are great plants for it. They're pretty much maintenance free when you put them in. They're tough, they're very hardy when they get bigger. They're just easy plants to just do exactly what you want them to do. But if you're starting a garden next year, a sort of exotic garden or your own tropical bed, then it's a great time of year to buy plants like these at £2 each. Keep them over winter, then you've got something to plant out next spring. Because I'm sure plant prices will be significantly higher next spring, and if you can keep these just somewhere sheltered, I mean ideally a greenhouse or a polytunnel while they're still small, but somewhere sheltered close to your house should be absolutely fine. It's a great way of saving a bit of money and be ready to go next spring. So on from these to something I will actually include in the garden here. One of the plants I did by myself then is this amazing Chamaerops palm. Dwarf fan palm, Mediterranean palm. They're a fantastic plant. This is a very healthy looking one. It was 20 quid. I feel like I'm on a shopping channel now. It was 20 quid, but I got it for £12. And potentially you can get them even cheaper than that. Now, that's not a complete bargain compared to previous years when plants like this were significantly cheaper. And I actually picked a small one of these up, reduced for £3 a few years ago, and that's grown really well. But that's the reason why I picked this one up, because in small sizes, they grow so well. Like all these palms, yes, they're quite slow growing in the scheme of things, this one especially, but it looks attractive while it's small. And if you can plant it at this size, by the time it's bigger, it'll be so much tougher, so much hardier, and it'll look fantastic too. So it's a plant that I've got for a drier part of the garden, where it's going to receive a bit more sun than the shady plants I've just shown you. But it's a cracking looking plant, beautiful sort of silvery look at the bottom of the leaves, and for £12 for a palm, it's a great plant if you've got your first tropical garden, somewhere sunny, with really well drained soil that you absolutely want to show off and really create that Mediterranean exotic vibe. Something like this is absolutely perfect. For your first palm tree, you can't go far wrong with these. And when it comes to winter, they are really tough. Now, in a pot like this, potentially if it's a very cold winter, I would put it somewhere sheltered. But once you've planted it out next year, as long as it's got good drainage, it should be absolutely fine for all but the most cold winters. So they're a cracking plant. Now let's look at something else that isn't entirely exotic, but something that definitely will find a home in my garden. Like a lot of people who have an exotic garden full of these amazing tropical effect plants, I do enjoy growing the rarities. And it'd be fantastic to have a garden where every single plant is a botanical rarity from the other side of the world, something with unusual leaves that you can't just pick up in your garden centre. But unfortunately, that would be massively expensive. And also, you might run the risk of having a garden that's just a collection of specimens, more of a collection or museum than an actual garden. So you've got to put a certain value on those plants that tie it together. And those plants, they don't have to be rare, they don't have to be tender, hard to look after. They can be perfectly hardy. They can be plants you can pick up anywhere. And this one, it's another B&M special. It's a Chamaerops Everline. And yes, it's a bit of an impulse buy. Not something I went out for, not something I did research on, but it's an evergreen grass that's got this amazing colour. And as you can see there, it's got this beautiful sort of green with yellowy stripes to the edges of the leaves. It's a fantastic looking grass, and it will do perfectly well in a lovely sort of low spot I've got between a couple of evergreen shrubs behind where I've got the greenhouse going. So plants like this, for £3, you can't go wrong. Sure, it's not as exciting as a Schefflerer or a big Gunnerer or a Tetrapanax, but it's plants like these that really hold your garden together. Because if you've just got a few really expensive plants and a lot of soil between them, it's not really a garden and it's never going to have the impact. Whereas someone that's got a variety of different plants, planted well, with a nice sort of mid-canopy, ground covering, tall plants sticking through, it's going to look so much better. And plants like these are a great way of achieving that look without spending a huge amount of money. The other great thing about the plants I've shown you is that you don't have to have a big garden to plant them in. You don't even have to have a garden of any size at all. Plants like the Chamaerops, that, if you're going to grow a palm in a pot long term, this is the one to do it. Because although no palm will actually enjoy being in a pot, this one is very slow growing, very drought tolerant, very tough, very hardy. It will survive pretty much any amount of neglect. So it's a great choice as something to go in a pot, maybe near a patio or a pathway, to really create a Mediterranean style vibe. And those other plants, well, let me just show you what I've thought of now. Personally, I don't really recommend growing Fatsia and Cordylines in pots, certainly not long term anyway. They never grow quite as well as the plants that are in the ground, they need more watering, whereas the same plants in the ground are pretty much maintenance free and grow so much quicker. These plants here, they might be £2 babies now, but if you plant them out in spring, in just a few short years, they'll easily be 4 foot plus tall, look impressive, and be the same size as plants at maybe £30, £40. So they're a great investment that will size up nicely. However, if you don't have a garden to plant them into, then potentially, just thought of this now, but you could combine these three to create an exotic evergreen pot that will look great all year round. Certainly bring a touch of that tropical vibe to any kind of patio, maybe near your front door, something like that. And also the plants will cost less than a tenner. So it's fantastic, really, you can't go far wrong. I don't know if you're familiar with the thriller spiller filler method of planting at pots to containers, but you'll already know I'm a big fan of planting in threes. I think it brings a lot of balance, and these three plants, by pure coincidence, are probably a great example of the thriller spiller filler method. So the spiller is a plant like this grass that hangs over the edge of the pot. It really softens that edge. Your thriller is the plant you've got there, the main feature, that Cordyline with its purple leaves reaching for the sky. That'll just keep getting taller and taller. The filler, a bit unkind maybe, but that Fatsia japonica with its beautiful olive green leaves, beautiful glossy leaves, I think that is a great backdrop for that Cordyline. So if you combine these three plants together, I think they work really nicely together, and certainly a taste of the exotic, a step up from just having some sprayed heather or something like that, definitely. And that's for less than a tenner. So that's a great little planting mix. Whilst I personally wouldn't recommend growing in pots or containers long term, if that's your only option and you want something that's easy to look after but still brings that colour for 365 days a year, you can't go far wrong with something like this. So that's it for today's video, and as you can see behind me, the sun's come out. Why does this happen every single time? But anyway, video done. And today's video, it's not really been a specific plant care video or a how-to video, it's been more of a general sort of encouragement video. And I think at this time of year, Halloween, bonfire night, downhill to Christmas, definitely downhill, with those dark nights drawing in, everything in the garden is slowly starting to go to sleep. I think it's easy to think that that's it for this year, and planting out next year, planting out in May, seems like an absolute age away. But the reality is, there's so much to look forward to, so much to plan for next year's display, change you're going to make, what are you going to do to make your garden better next year. But rather than just having ideas, it's also a good time to go out to garden centres on a rainy weekend like this one and see what you can get. You might just pick up some bargains that'll be absolutely perfect for your garden next spring. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.